It's all very confusing, and when things get confusing, we talk to a guy who is not confused at all. He's somebody that knows exactly the ins and outs of all of this, and it's great once again to welcome in Paul Seegert. Paul is a managing partner at PCS Advisers. That's an employee healthcare benefit consulting firm, and he's based in Northern California. And Paul, how are you today on this glorious Memorial Day?
I'm doing really well. How are you, Ken?
I'm well, but I'm confused, which is a natural state for me. Don't get overly concerned about that. But the senator from the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, well within the sound of my voice here, just across the Ohio River, is saying he's not getting vaccinated because he's already had the disease. Now, there are a lot of people walking around, as you well know, Paul, who've had COVID and feel like they have the antibodies, and they're not going to get vaccinated. In fact, at one time, I think we were told, those that had the disease could have those antibodies extracted and given to other people to prevent them from getting the disease. So I'm totally confused right now about antibodies. If you've had the COVID and you didn't get vaccinated, do you have to get vaccinated now?
Well, they're telling you that you should because of the whole I don't know, or they don't know how long you're going to have this natural immunity. But it's equally true. They don't know how long the vaccine will provide you that immunity. And every time they release another study, it shows that these folks who've had COVID continue to have strong immunity, even if they've had a very mild case, even if they didn't know they had it. So there is really no scientific reason why a person would get vaccinated in addition to having had and recovered from COVID.
See, I remember back in February and March of 2020, we were building these mass unit hospitals, and nurse ships were being sent to California and Florida. Yeah. And the whole idea was, we want you to shut down for 15 days, and then another 15 days shut down. And the great fear is that the hospitals would be overwhelmed with COVID patients, and we wouldn't have enough places to put them. Well, it turned out that didn't happen. Those mass units, there was one here in Cincinnati, several actually, they weren't needed. And a lot of healthcare workers, nurses and whatnot, were laid off because nobody was going to the hospital. So this is where I get a little confused about exactly who dies from this disease. And in this time when we still wear, in some cases, masks in public places, and we still social distance, and we've learned a lot in the last 15, 16 months, why we're still saying, I don't know, about things like antibodies. Oh, and you better get that vaccine because we don't know. I think that's where I think the disconnect comes from a lot of people.
Well, we've lost a lot of confidence on the part of the public because of mixed messaging and messaging that's clearly, it's almost to a point now where if someone says they're following the science, you can almost be certain they're not following the science.
Right.
It's that silly. We've got cases, the CDC says get a vaccine even if you've had COVID. The CDC also says 8 times, and they're conservative in this, there's others that put it much higher, 8 times more Americans have had COVID than new or had been confirmed cases, which would mean we're well into the 30-something million who've been confirmed, just call it 30. 8 times 30 is 240, plus the 30 is 270. That would put us at herd immunity, which is why we're not talking so much about deaths and hospitalizations anymore. We're only talking about new cases because the vulnerable parts of the population have been inoculated. Even if we had another surge in infections, would that be as worrisome? Not at all. And if you look at L.A. as such a good example of this conflicting information, you've got a population in L.A. County that has large minority groups who are known to be more vaccine hesitant in general, and even more so in the case of this COVID vaccine. So you've got, say 60% of Americans have had a dose of this vaccine nationwide. They trail by about 20 points. So they've had one of the least successful campaigns in LA. Yet they are the best in terms of they're at the very top of the list in terms of low positivity rates when they go out and they test the population. So they've gotten to herd immunity in LA with a much worse vaccine rate. How is that possible unless it was through natural immunity coming? And when they're asked, the answer is it must be that we've achieved herd immunity there because people have gotten and recovered from the infection.
Well, I think part of the problem is they say follow the science. Well, the science is leading us down a lot of different rabbit holes here. Now, maybe that's just a product of this disease. They caught everybody flat-footed, and there was no real research on it. And maybe because the science was morphing, but it just seems like it's morphing a lot. I mean, you've got Rochelle Walensky, who's the director of the CDC, 6-8 weeks ago, telling everybody impending doom was coming. That was her words, impending doom.
Right.
I haven't seen any impending doom. In fact, I see the cases of COVID, those that wind up people wind up in hospital with or die from. I see those plummeting. I see states opening up. Where's the impact? And when you make statements like that, that impugns your own credibility. You have Anthony Fauci running around to every television station he can get to, and his story changes every 2 weeks about where this is going. I think these people, Walensky and Fauci in particular, I think if they want to remain in the forefront of public information on this, they need to get their stories correct before they go out and start talking to people. That's why you see this eroding faith in the CDC and in Fauci in particular, and why you see a reluctance for a lot of people to say, well, wait a minute, I was sicker than a dog a year ago. That's what I had. Although no doctor can tell you whether you had it, I'm not going to get vaccinated. I think the messaging, you and I have talked about this a lot, the messaging has been off since jump, but it's not getting any better, is it?
No, it really doesn't seem to be. The only clear winners in this whole thing, and I'm a healthcare consultant, and I follow the dollars in the healthcare system, and it's a sick business. And when you look at the only clear winners, I said a long time back in this process, we're in the midst of the biggest arms race in pharmaceutical business history. You know, we've got Pfizer just came out within the last day or so and said they made $15 billion so far on this. $15 billion. Take that, and then no wonder there are so many vaccines in production. No wonder there are so many. I'm not saying that they're not doing a good thing. I'm just saying there's a business side to this that you have to follow the dollars, and you have to have a little bit of skepticism when they are saying, I don't know, but you're probably going to need a booster shot. You're probably going to need an annual shot. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Right. $15 billion. Oh, and by the way, have some more of this stuff so we can make another $15 billion. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm not saying that lives weren't saved by this. I'm sure there were. I'm not saying that the research went into it wasn't good. I'm sure it was. It was literally a wartime effort to get it from conception to delivery. All of that's great. But when you look at who's making money off this, and then you see them saying, hey, sign up for some more, it's human nature to say to yourself, wait a minute, what are we driving here, medicine or dollars? And it's so I'm not saying that I think Rand Paul is a guy that always runs against the current of the river, and that's just the way he is, and it's one of the reasons why he was elected and reelected as a senator from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. But this is about as high profile a guy who's saying, and he also happens to be a doctor, he's an ophthalmologist, saying, look, I got it. I'm not going to get vaccinated. I got sick, but I'm not going to get vaccinated and run down that again. So this antibody thing mixed in with the dollars from the vaccine that Pfizer and Moderna are making. And then I look at a number that says only 41% of the country, a little over 41% of the country has been fully vaccinated. I think there's a large credibility problem. I don't see that number moving very much at all, unless we get another wave like we got last spring. And I don't think anybody's anticipating that, nor expects it, nor believes that will happen again. I don't see that number moving much past 41%. Do you?
Yeah, it's going to slow down quite a bit, and all these campaigns and giveaways and lotteries and $50 gift cards, unlimited number of $50 gift cards I think you can get in Detroit for driving someone to a vaccination center. All of that will, I think, have a pretty minimal impact because of everything that we've been discussing.
Right.
And there's just no, if you're following the science, the studies continue to confirm, it would be new science if getting this disease didn't give you some sort of immunity. That would be new science. So the fact that we were going this total other direction is, I think, there's a business element to that. Unfortunately, there always is in healthcare. It's a massive $5 trillion business, $4 or $5 trillion business.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is. But when you look at people that are tested who've had the vaccines versus those who've had and recovered from the illness, you have more antibodies after recovering from the illness than you'd get from the J&J vaccine, and a little bit less than you would get from the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. But the question then becomes, how many do you need? How much is enough? Because the breakthrough infections don't occur anymore in people who've had COVID versus those who've had the vaccine.
Yeah. Paul Seegert, Managing Partner, PCS Advisors. Stay well, my friend. We need to hear your voice. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.